The invisible war, how they control you. Without saying a word. Some people don't need to yell. They don't need to threaten. They don't even need to raise their voice. Yet somehow, they control your every move. They do it subtly, through silence, through calculated words, through emotional triggers that bypass your logic and go straight to your core. It's not magic, it's manipulation. And if you don't have mental armor, you'll play the game they set up, without even knowing you're a pawn. But today, that ends. You're about to learn an ancient strategy, one that was used by emperors to stay unshaken in the face of liars, deceivers, and power players. This isn't about fighting back louder. It's about becoming unmanipulatable. This is how you build your Stoic Manipulation Shield, the mindset that makes you unreadable, untouchable, uncontrolled. Even emperors got played until they didn't. Marcus Aurelius had power, status, armies. But even he couldn't escape manipulation. There were people around him, advisors, generals, friends, who used half-truths, flattery, and guilt to influence his decisions without ever showing their hand. And the crazy part, he didn't fight them. He didn't expose them. He just didn't let it in. He built a wall around his mind, a filter, a shield. That's what made him unshakable. Now, fast forward to today. You don't need to be a Roman emperor to deal with manipulation. You just need to be human. Someone will use silence to make you feel guilty, or say something sweet just to control what you do next. And if you don't see it coming, you'll react, you'll explain, you'll try to fix it. And just like that, you're under their control. But there's another way. You can train your mind to stay centered, to recognize the game without stepping into it. That's what this video is for. Let's build that shield. Strategy 1. Emotional delay. Buy time, buy power. The most dangerous kind of control is the kind you don't even notice. It doesn't come through orders, it comes through small emotional nudges. A sigh that makes you feel guilty, a silence that demands you chase, a loaded question that forces you to defend yourself. And just like that, you react, without thinking, without choosing, and that's all it takes, one reaction. And they've already pulled you into their frame. That's the first rule of manipulation. Speed beats awareness. The faster you react, the easier you are to control. So how do you break that loop? You build a gap between what hits you and how you hit back. That gap is called emotional delay. Picture this. Someone looks at you and says, "Wow, you've really changed," not in a good way. Now pause. Feel that heat rising in your chest, that urge to explain, to prove something. Don't. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't justify. Don't defend. Just hold. Let the words land. Let them hang. And do absolutely nothing. That stillness, that's your first shield. You're not suppressing emotion. You're reclaiming your position. You're saying, "You don't get to control the tempo of my mind." Because here's what most people never realize. Power isn't always in the answer. Sometimes it's in the pause. Stillness creates space, and in that space, you choose. Marcus Aurelius didn't win his battles by arguing harder. He won by remaining still when others lost themselves trying to be heard, because the mind that reacts fastest is usually the one least in control, and the mind that waits is the one that sees. So if you want to be unshakable, train this first. Do not respond at the speed of your emotion. Respond at the speed of your clarity. That's how you stop being a puppet and start becoming the one who chooses which strings even matter. But here's the thing, even silence isn't enough if you can't see the setup, because before they control your reaction, They bait your attention. Let's look at how they do that. Strategy 2. Spot the hooks. If you don't see the setup, you've already lost. Here's a brutal truth. You can't defend yourself from what you don't see coming. And manipulation, it never starts with control. It starts with bait. The manipulator never walks up and says, "Hi, I'm here to twist your emotions." Number. They lure you in, soft, subtle, calculated. They create the illusion of concern, connection, curiosity. But behind the softness is strategy. They test you with a question. "You're different lately. Is everything okay?" It sounds caring, but what they're really saying is, "You're drifting away and I need to re-establish control." And if you don't catch the hook, you'll answer it emotionally. You'll defend, you'll explain, you'll give them exactly what they came for, access. Because that's the whole point. Manipulation begins when you accept the frame. You didn't choose the conversation, you just walked into it, and now you're playing their game by their rules. Here's how they do it. Guilt hooks. "I guess you don't care anymore." Praise hooks. "You're so amazing. No one else gets me like you." Victim hooks. "You're the only one who ever leaves me." Comparison hooks. "Other people treat me better than this." Each one is a test, not of your intelligence, but of your emotional discipline. Because manipulation doesn't need lies, it just needs your participation. And if you bite, you've just been cast in their story. So what's the Stoic move? You don't react to the surface. You study the pattern. Ask yourself, do I feel guilt every time I say no to this person? Do I feel drained after giving them what they want? Do they shift blame subtly and consistently? If the answer is yes, you're being hooked. But here's where your power comes back. Awareness kills manipulation. Because once you see the hook, you don't bite. You sit back, you let the line dangle, and you watch them squirm in the silence they created. Remember, the smartest fish never fights the bait. It simply watches it float by, untouched. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste energy on games. He knew the best way to kill a trap is to never step into it. But even if you see the game, some people won't stop playing. And that's when you need the next level of defense, strategic indifference. Let's sharpen it. Strategy 3, strategic indifference. When you stop reacting, they lose power. So now you see the hook. You recognize the setup. But what do you do when they double down? What do you do when someone pushes harder, tries guilt, praise, silence, anything, just to get under your skin? Simple. You stop caring, strategically. Let's be clear. Indifference doesn't mean coldness. It doesn't mean becoming numb or passive. It means choosing not to invest your energy where it's being weaponized against you. That's power. Think about it. What happens when someone gives you the silent treatment and you don't chase? What happens when someone throws guilt and you don't flinch? What happens when they bait you for a reaction and you give them stillness? They lose the one thing they need to control you, your emotional response. Most people think being nice means always engaging, always explaining, always showing that you care. But manipulators exploit that. They know you'll text back. They know you'll try to smooth things over. They know you can't stand the idea of someone being upset with you, and that's exactly why they win. So here's the Stoic correction. You let go of needing to be understood. You let go of needing to fix things. You let go of needing to respond at all. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Apply that to attention. It's not the person who stays silent that's weak. It's the one who needs constant validation that's fragile. Real strength is silent. It's unfazed. It watches chaos unfold and doesn't blink. Because here's what most people don't get. Indifference isn't passive, it's dominant. It tells the manipulator, you don't move me, you don't get access, you don't get to play. And when you stop giving them emotional feedback, you starve the system. No input, no control. They either escalate or disappear. Either way, you win. But there's one more level to this. Even if you stay calm, even if you don't react, there's still one thing that gives them power. Your transparency. If they can read you, they can still use you. Let's fix that next. Strategy 4. Withhold your inner world. The less they know, the less they can use. Let's get brutally honest. You're easier to manipulate when you overshare. The more people know about what hurts you, what drives you, what scares you, the easier it is to steer your emotions without ever raising their voice. And manipulators, they don't need force, they just need data. Your childhood wounds, your insecurities, your dreams, fears, love languages, triggers. They listen carefully, not to connect, but to build a control panel. So here's the pivot. Privacy is not secrecy, it's protection. It doesn't mean being cold, it means being intentional. When someone asks, why do you always shut down during conflict? You don't owe them a full emotional biography. You owe them discernment. Because here's the reality. Not everyone who listens is safe. And not everyone who cares cleanly. Some people collect your pain to use it later. That vulnerability you shared in confidence, used against you when you set a boundary. That story about your ex, brought up when they want to make you jealous. That fear of abandonment, poked when they want you to stay, even when you shouldn't. Sound familiar? Ask yourself, who knows your wounds better than you do? And are they using them to heal or to hold you? Marcus Aurelius had a rule: never let your soul go unguarded. He journaled his inner world, not to share it, but to contain it. The Stoic mindset is simple. Be easy to talk to, but hard to read. Speak with warmth, but share with intention. Let people guess what drives you. Let them wonder what gets under your skin, because the more they wonder, the less control they have, and the less they know, the more freedom you keep. But what if they've already labeled you? What if they've already defined who you are, and now you're stuck reacting to their version of you? That's when it's time to reclaim the story. Let's get into it. Strategy 5. Reclaim the narrative. If you don't define yourself, they will. Here's one of the most overlooked forms of manipulation: narrative control. It doesn't sound like much at first, but it's everywhere. You're always so sensitive. You're acting crazy. You've changed, not in a good way. See, this is why people pull away from you. You've heard it before. And it works, because when someone repeats a version of you long enough, you start to question if they're right. That's how narrative manipulation works. It doesn't attack you directly. It rewrites your identity slowly. And the more emotionally attached you are to that person, a partner, a boss, a parent, the more power their words carry. So what's the Stoic solution? You write your own script first. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for the world to define him. He wrote meditations not for praise, not for status, but to anchor himself in truth. He reminded himself daily who he was, what he stood for, what he refused to become. And that's what you need too. Call it a personal constitution, a mental manifesto. It's not about arrogance, it's about clarity. When someone tries to label you, you don't fight them. You don't explain yourself to them. You refer back to your own definitions. Here's the shift. Instead of asking, why do they see me this way? Ask, why do I care? The moment you stop outsourcing your identity to someone else, You become unshakable, because now they can say whatever they want, but they can't reach the part of you that already knows who you are. Words lose power when you already chose your truth, and sometimes the most powerful move isn't to correct the lie, but to live in such clarity that the lie collapses on its own. But what if the words aren't the problem anymore? What if the whole relationship, the environment, is the real source of manipulation? Sometimes the strongest move is not fighting, but walking away. Let's talk about that next. Strategy 6. Withdraw with power. Leave without explaining. Let's be honest. Some situations aren't fixable. Some people don't change. Some dynamics aren't meant to be healed. They're meant to be escaped. But we hesitate. Why? Because we've been trained to feel guilty for leaving, to think that walking away means we gave up. That silence is weakness, that no explanation equals no closure. But that's not weakness, that's strategy. And sometimes withdrawal is the highest form of power. Here's what you need to understand. Manipulators don't just feed on attention, they feed on access to your time, to your explanations, to your emotional energy. And the more you talk it through, the longer they stay in the game. That's why the most powerful move isn't always confrontation. It's quiet exit, with no fanfare, no drama, no "I owe you this" conversation. Because guess what? You don't. You don't owe closure to someone who never offered you honesty. You don't owe peace to someone who used chaos to control you. What you owe is your own peace. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And in modern terms, the best revenge is walking away so quietly they don't even realize you were the source of their power until you're gone. Here's how to apply it. Stop explaining to people who don't listen. Stop justifying your boundaries to those who break them. Stop fighting for understanding where there's only control. And when the time comes to go, don't announce it. Just don't show up. Because leaving in silence isn't weakness. It's a message. You don't get to keep me just because you confuse me. Sometimes you win by vanishing completely. But how do you turn all this into a way of life? How do you build a mind so grounded that no one can shake it, no matter what tactic they try? Let's bring everything together. You don't win by fighting back. You win by becoming untouchable. Let's get real. You don't stop manipulation by learning how to argue better. You don't beat it by proving your worth. You don't win by reacting harder. You win by becoming unreadable, by becoming still, by becoming unavailable to their games. Because here's the truth they'll never tell you. Most manipulation doesn't work on strong people. It works on emotionally available, but mentally unguarded people. People who want to be liked, who want to explain, who hate to disappoint. But the Stoic doesn't live for approval. The Stoic doesn't fear misunderstanding. The Stoic doesn't chase closure. The Stoic knows. Every time you give them a piece of your mind, they learn how to control it. Every time you react, you train them how to reach you. So what do you do instead? You slow down. You spot the hook. You stay indifferent. You keep your soul protected. You write your own story. And when needed, you disappear. Quietly, completely, without explanation, without regret. Because your greatest shield isn't loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't defend. It simply says, you no longer have access. That's the Stoic Manipulation Shield. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standards. You don't fight for control. You stop giving it away. And once you master that, you don't just protect your peace. You become the kind of presence no manipulator can touch. If this hit home, here's what's next. If you're ready to go even deeper, to build a mind so centered, so clear, so disciplined, that no one can provoke you, guilt you, or play you again. Watch the next video. Become emotionally unreachable. 5 Stoic tactics for quiet control. This journey isn't just about defense. It's about becoming the kind of person no one dares to manipulate.